Well, this is something new for me, so bear with me. But it's a mission, it's a passion, and it's something that my husband and I have been doing for 20 years. One of the biggest things that I love to talk to people about is food storage. You don't have to struggle with this. It's something that we do every day. And it's something that should be affordable, it should be fun. And I know we started our journey, I think, like most people, the big box stores with the bag of rice. And I think the first time Ken and I went out and got our rice and stuck it down in the basement, it's like, are we done? No. I think we all kind of start out, again, at the shops, getting our prepper stews and soups and the canned vegetables and whatnot, and are we done yet? No. Some little things I'll flash in here also is make sure you got can openers for these things, because it would really stink to have to get into it by other means. MREs, they're wonderful to have. They have a lot of purpose as far as grab and go, stash and grab. They're great for bobs, your bug out bags, your get home bags. And some other things to keep in mind with all food storage is the shelf life on it and the heat exposure. If you'll notice on the PowerPoint I have up here, it's got 5 years on this MRE. When you have it in 120 degrees, it brings your shelf life down to a year. When you've got it at, say, 60 degrees, then you're closer to 4 years and goes on down. So always keep in mind your food storage you want to keep in the coolest place in your house. Don't want to keep it in an attic. Basement is best. Watch your humidity levels as well. Your high-calorie bars are great to have in here too, and they're great for calories, but this is not going to give you a quantity of food to fill you up. This is strictly going to give you calories that your body needs to function. So don't expect to eat one of these, be full, and you're good. It's just giving you the rations to keep you going. Some other things that people have to be aware of is decoding the MRE dates. Make sure that you look at these things, because a lot of times people will look at the inspection dates and think that those are the origination dates. Actually, some have very readable, easy to understand dates, such as this first one here is March 9 of 01. If you look down further, there's another one that you see 1068, and this is kind of, you shouldn't have to have a decoder ring for these things. So the 1 stands for the year, so this would be 2001. The next 3 numbers indicate the day based on a 365-day year. So again, this is March 9 of 2001. When you're looking at your MREs, make sure you're getting fresh. Make sure you're going by the origination dates. Something that has really brought us along on our journey and was a huge saver for us was couponing. And I know a lot of people think, I don't have time for that. Take time. I've gotten to the point over the last 3 years where I saved 75%. So the average person that goes to the store and spends $100, I spend $25. That other $75 goes a long way in preparedness. There's a lot of things you can do with that. This one in particular, these items, and you'll see it's everyday items. You've got lots of ham. I think those wound up being 75 cents a piece. The retail on this was $100.21. I saved almost $77 and I paid $24.46. And then got $2.50 off on top of it. These are some other things here, and I'm not just showing you my grocery store trips, I'm showing what you can actually do with these things. This one in particular was $4.01. You got your milk, you got your peanut butter, you got your good basics, you got some coffee. In this one here, $10.41, you see we've also got some medical supplies. We've got nuts, which are very good to have on hand. The toilet paper, baby wipes, all these things that are all part of our, not just food storage, but our preparedness. These are things that we can integrate and bring in and do it affordably. So once you start doing this, you'll see how quickly, how easily, and how inexpensively you can start to build your food storage. Keynote on this was probably about a year into it after the couponing. And in 2011, both my husband and I were downsized within about 3 months of each other. Thanks to our food storage, we didn't skip a beat. And I continued doing what I do, saving money. Some of the websites that I use, and keep in mind, don't worry about writing all this stuff down. Come see me, I'll email this presentation to you so you can see all this stuff and just add it to your notes. Our website that we just started is easyfoodstorage.net. Also Adventures in Coupons and Southern Savers. These are all wonderful resources for learning how to save money, where to go, what to do. And the wonderful thing of it is when I start working with people, even if they're not into preparedness, even if they just want to save money, they'll come back to me in a few weeks with, announcements of what they've done, how well they've done, how good they feel. And there's a whole nother aspect, because when you're dealing with people that don't want to be prepared, they just want to save money, they're automatically building a food storage. So, and like I said, best of all, when they think preparedness and, oh, we're crazy, you've done it and they don't even know it. So they'll get through a flu, they'll get through a hurricane or a windstorm. And when I tell them, how long do you think you could go without having to go to the grocery store? And they said, well, we could probably make it a few days, a couple weeks. To see the relief in their eyes, realizing that they can do that for their family, is worth $1 million. So now that we've got the basics down, we're going to the store and we're doing our couponing, we got our shelves and cans and whatnot stocked. Now we start working on the bulk. The LDS pantry was someplace that we used to visit quite a bit. And I know there's been a lot of things out in the paper and articles out on the websites about the LDS pantries. You can still buy bulk there. You can buy bulk, you can Mylar bag it, you can do this all yourself. They just can't do the number 10 cans there anymore. You can buy the number 10 cans prepackaged through them still. You can buy the bulk items and do it yourself still. So that is still a wonderful resource, and that's something I can help connect you guys with in your area. On this, I also will have the website where you can locate your closest LDS pantry, and generally you just call them and they'll set up an appointment for you to come in. Another resource that we have found that is wonderful for your meats, grains, whatnot, in bulk is Azure Standard. Again, I've got the link on here I'll send to you. And Zaycon. These are all companies that do drops throughout the country. And you can get hormone-free, antibiotic-free meats to can very affordably. You can do your bags, you can do your Mylars, you can build your food storage with this. With the Mylar bags, some things to keep in mind: there's different sizes, there's different mills and thicknesses. One thing that you want to keep in mind is most of the things, 3.5 mil is great for your soft and smooth items, your flours, your wheat berries, your sugars. When you have things that are pokey things, as I call them, when you're dealing with pasta, banana chips, you want to have a thicker mill, or else it's going to puncture through. And then it's not going to have a very long shelf life. So you can put these things in a Ziploc bag inside a heavier mill. You can also put in some diatomaceous earth, which helps with pests. So I know some people have some concerns about weevils and larvae and everything else. Diatomaceous earth is something that is fossilized. It will break up the exoskeletons and they will not survive, but it's healthy for us. One thing to keep in mind, there's all sorts of different grades of the diatomaceous earth. A 50-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth runs about $20.30 through Azure again. This is something you can just sprinkle in. It takes care of all that. You don't have to worry about it. There's also a lot of health benefits that I'll have a website for as well that you can look at. The only thing to keep in mind when you're working with it, you don't want to breathe it in. This is nothing you want to get in your lungs, but you can use it in your food, you can use it in your garden. You can even sprinkle it on your pup for fleas. If you have livestock, you can sprinkle it in their food if you're concerned about parasites. Diatomaceous earth has a lot of benefits, and it's something that you should definitely consider adding in, and it's very affordable. Here's how we do our Mylar bags here. I just use a clothes iron. I know there's all sorts of different ways to do it. They've got the great sealers. People use hair straighteners. I just use my good old-fashioned clothes iron. And once I'm done, then we'll put it in our 35-gallon bucket. I'll toss in some Ziplocs. So once you open that bag, you have something to store that food in. And then you've got, I'll toss any directions or instructions in there along with it. So if we have to get into it in 20 years, I don't have to remember, what do I have to do with this? Don't forget, you can get your 5-gallon buckets for free at the grocery stores and bakeries. I know some people grab the pickle jars from the restaurants and whatnot. I do not want to mess with those. You can get these things for free. And that's one of the things I really want to zero in on today, is how affordable and inexpensive this can be. So don't forget to go by your grocery store. This was just one run at our local Ingles. Some will charge $1. Most of the places I've come across, though, are free. And don't forget about the 3-gallon buckets as well. Don't just take whatever bucket you can get, because those 3 gallons are great for other items, excess grocery items, the soups, the biscuit mixes, barter items. They all can be used. The gamma seals are really good to have on these as well. Keep in mind, when we first started, I was thinking, okay, we've got 20 buckets. I need 20 gamma seals. No, you don't. You need one for the one that you're working out of, and then the rest can just have the regular plastic lids on them. Make sure that you've got the bung wrench to open these things, though. If you look down below at the metal one, most of them will double as a main gas line shut-off tool as well. Decide on which material you want, the plastic or the metal. The metal was my personal preference because I don't want to have to worry about plastic breaking, because one day we may not have that magic button to push and have it at the door in 2 days. So once we're down, we've got our basics, we've got our rice, our beans, and will we survive? Yeah. Are we going to hate it? Absolutely. So don't let yourself experience food fatigue. So you want to start looking at ways to supplement your food storage. What do you need? We all have the little cans of emergency garden seeds in our refrigerators or down in our basements, and those are great. It's a wonderful resource to have. However, that same can of seeds is sold to Ohio, California, India. They're sold all over the world. Are they going to grow in my rocky clay soil here in Western North Carolina? So I visited here in Fletcher. We've got a wonderful lawn and garden, Fletcher Lawn and Garden, and they have heirloom seeds, all local. So even if you're not from the area here, check with your local garden areas, check with Jan and Bill. They have local heirloom seeds. Go to your area and see what you have and see where it comes from, because you know those items will grow in your area. When it comes to gardening, start now. Don't just buy your seeds and stick them in your storage. You have to test. You got to see what's going on. Like I said, in Fletcher, Hendersonville area, we've got horrible red clay soil. So you can't just stick something in the ground and hope it's going to grow. So you've got, in the in-ground, you've got your plowing, you've got your tilling, you've got your soil testing. You've got some work ahead of you. You need to practice with this stuff. And then you also have to consider that you're going to have to be maintaining that garden. So for several years, we tested, and we've been practicing. And yeah, we started with just stick it in the ground, and that didn't work. So then we started adding the stuff to it, and it was getting better, but then it was full of weeds. And I know, working full-time at that time, 50, 60 hours a week, and my husband traveled all the time, we didn't have time for a lot of that. So I started practicing with some different forms of gardening. This one isn't too pretty, but it worked really well, and that was putting down cardboard. And that acts as a weed barrier, also helps keep the moisture in. Plants loved it. it was working well, but again, it wasn't really that good looking. So we've tried the topsy-turvy and the insy-outsy and the upsy-downsy and all sorts of stuff. And these, again, work very well. It's another form. And then we decided that we'd try to start with raised beds. Again, check your local resources for your soil. In this area, Asheville Mulch Yard is amazing. They've got something called Amy's Mix, and it has everything that you need. So when Ken and I built this raised bed garden, we went over and got about 2 truckloads, put this in, and the garden just absolutely flourished. It loved it. And now our next trick that we're trying is with the Secret Garden of Survival. Rick Austin, he was here speaking last night. I hope you got to hear him. If not, don't forget, Jan's going to have the DVD on sale with all the speakers. Check Rick out. He brings this into such an amazing, sorry, I'm looking for the word, concept of gardening, of when you walk into this garden, you have no idea you're walking into a garden. And you just plant it and it grows. Then once you get your harvest in, don't forget to save your seeds. It's very easy to do this. These are some tomatoes that I had done a couple years ago. You scoop the seeds out, mix them up in some water, let them sit. The bad stuff all floats to the top. You scoop that out. Your good seeds are on the bottom. Just to be safe, I do it one more day. I do it one more time. And then I just make little wax paper envelopes, mark them, and I stick them in the freezer, and I've got my seeds for next year. And then start practicing with starting your seeds. And then once all this comes about and you have your bounty, what are you going to do with the surplus? This is another instance. This kind of brings in the couponing and working with surplus. And this was 8 bags of frozen corn that I got on sale for about 30 cents a piece. And I dehydrated them. The dehydrator I use is the Nesco Garden Master, and I absolutely love it. I usually work with 8 trays, but it can go up to 30. So this all falls into personal preference, and like everybody, we have our own personal opinion. So that 8 bags of corn came down to 2 quarts and a half a pint of product to store. Your mason jars, you can get at yard sales, flea markets. Make sure to check the tops of them. There's no cracks or anything, but you can get these things very affordably. Look and make sure you don't see lines where they've had paint or chemicals in them, but they're very easy to keep clean. Anything over 50 cents, I usually figure I would be better off just buying new, because you're going to have to buy lids and rings for these things too. So just kind of keep that in mind. Yeah, you can get these affordably, but have a limit that you set yourself at, because you are going to have to go out and buy extra stuff for this. The food saver, and this is something I've got set up over there. The mason jar sealer, there's this magical little white hat that came with your food saver. And this is what this is for. This is to use with either regular, they've got 2 different sizes. They've got a regular, they've got a wide mouth. And this will fit on your jars, and it sucks the air out. And this is a wonderful way to work with your surplus. Spices and seasonings is something else that you're going to want to make sure that you have in your food storage. The food saver, again, is a wonderful way to do this. We've even done candy corn. We even do our puppy food. We take a 15-pound bag, and I know that 15-pound bag will work down into 15 quarts, a little over 15 quarts, and each quart will last, 9 to 10 days. So I know in looking at this, I've got about 150 to 160 days worth of food. So don't forget in our food storage that we need to take care of both the 2- and the 4-legged babies. When you start with canning, water bath canning is a very easy way to start off without being intimidated. Water bath canning is generally for your fruits, your jams, your pickles, your tomatoes, but it's something you can start out easy with and build on. And of course, the Bibles for canning are the Ball Blue Book and the Home Preserving cans, or books. And then we come to the dreaded pressure canner. Don't worry, this is not going to happen as long as you follow the basic instructions. You'll be fine. You're not going to blow yourself up or your kitchen. Again, start baby steps. Start with something easy. This again, Aldi. I think these were 49 cents a bag. So I kept going back and I was buying more and more baby carrots. I know the cashier thought I was insane. But these are so easy. You stuff the jars, you add your hot water, leaving about a ½ inch to an inch of headspace, you stick it in, and you're done. So I had probably, when I was all said and done that week, about 40 pints and quarts mixed of baby carrots for probably under 20 bucks. Something else to consider are the things that you really want to invest your time and energy in. I've loved learning this. I've always joked about being domestically challenged. I was not raised this way, but if I can do it, anybody can. It's really been an amazing adventure. With this, though, got a phone call from a friend and the cherry trees were in. So Ken and I went out about 11 o'clock that morning, and we were going to go pick some cherries. Well, at the end, we probably had about 4 or 5 gallons worth of cherries. Went by and got our pitter, and we were going to go can some cherries. So the two of us at this point get home and start pitting. When we were done, yeah, the kitchen looked like a crime scene when we were done. And about 11:30 that night, we had 7 pints. And we realized, you know what? For 12 hours of labor and the expense and the power and the jars, I will never complain about buying freeze-dried cherries again. So keep in mind, yeah, it's great to try this stuff. It's great to know that you can do it, but then also start weighing your time and efforts. What could the two of us gotten done in that 12 hours? When you start going online and looking at the stuff, watch out for the dreaded buy it now button. We can all tend to go a little crazy when it comes to this. Make sure to research, compare, read reviews. One thing with preparedness is it's constantly changing. Like I said, we've been doing this for 20 years. I don't care if you're just starting out or if you've been doing it for 50 years. It's always changing. There's always new. There's always improved or different. So when you start looking at some of the number 10 items, make sure to see what's best for you. There's all sorts of different things out there. Read your labels. This is something that you really have to watch. Note on this one in particular, it's got 4 1-cup servings. When you look at that sodium right there, let me see, sodium right there, 1,180 milligrams for 1 serving. This can of whatever it is has almost 5,000 milligrams of sodium. You have to consider your health. You have to consider people that might be coming to you, their health, and your future health issues. So think about this for the long term, because when it comes down to it, if the fertilizer does not hit the fan, we're gonna have to eat this stuff. So make sure you try these items out before you invest in large quantities, before you invest a lot of money in them. If we don't have that emergency, are we still gonna wanna eat it? Make sure to have lots of water on store to work with your food, to work with your preps, especially when you're working with dehydrated products and freeze-dried products. Make sure to be careful of how you store your water. These milk jugs here, they're great for short term, 6 months or so. We've had several of these bust in our home, and it's not fun. So make sure you're going with the heavier plastic. Make sure that they've even got the 50, 55-gallon tanks. They've got the water bricks. They've got lots of stuff. Something else that's great when you're canning, when you have extra space, if you don't have enough, you can throw some water in and can that and have that safely to drink. It's a great place to take up room in there so your jars aren't knocking, but then it's also adding more to your water storage. And of course, long-term, a wonderful resource that we have to work with, as everybody knows, Scott with Practical Preppers. He can talk to you about your long-term water storage for your home. Now at this point, where do I go? We've got our food, it's sitting there. How are we gonna cook? What do we need? Keep in mind, they've got BMRs, they've got BMIs, they've got calculators. It's confusing. I've got no clue. I just want to eat. So in emergency status, keep in mind, male adults, yes, they require 2,800 calories. Females, about 22. Kids, 14. I rounded up. I figure, you know what? We're all just going to be eating an extra meal that day. So make sure that you have the resources for that. When it comes to cooking, most of us have our gas grills. Make sure that you've got extra propane tanks. These are things that I'll pick up at yard sales or flea markets. Nasty, rusty ones for like $5. And then I'll go to Lowe's, Walmart, Home Depot, whatever, and you get that exchange rate instead of having to spend the extra money on that. So that's another good cost saver. But have extra ones available because you are going to be doing a lot of cooking without power. A lot of us also have the Dutch ovens. We've got the spits. We've got the tripods with the witches' cauldrons and everything. Get out and practice these things. Make sure you have everything you need. We've got our sun ovens. And I was talking to a lady a few weeks ago, and she said, yeah, I got my sun oven. It's sitting down with my preps. I was like, great. Do you have the pans you're going to need? She said, what do you mean? There's special pans that you need to use with these. The darker, the better. So don't get this stuff and think that you can just sit it on a shelf and not work with it, not practice it with it. It's like they were talking about with communications last night, like Tim said. You might need that one piece, and a Radio Shack is not an option now. So get these things out, practice with them, and see what works for you. Something else that I researched for a very long time and I was very concerned about, because I know it's going to get to a point where we can't cook outdoors. It's not going to be safe to cook outdoors because you thought the first couple days was, fun. It was great. Well, now we're about a week into it and the neighbors start knocking on the door. And when you're cooking outside, you can't do that. So I started looking. One of my favorite little preps is this butane burner. They're safe, they're inexpensive, and it's a great way to cook indoors. I don't have a gas option at the house, so this is what we started working with. The little canisters about the size of the Aquanet hairspray. I know we've got some 70s and 80s children in here. I'm sure you remember these things. They're about that size. They're very inexpensive, and you can generally get these 4-packs at most of the Chinese grocery stores in the area. There's one that we frequent here in Asheville over by Sam's. There's one in Hendersonville. They're at Brookside Camp across from Smiley's in the Subway shop. There's a Chinese grocer there. These are very easy to get your hands on and very inexpensive. Something else to keep in mind when you're working with this, you're now inside. There's going to be a lot of different things that we're doing in a grid down situation or a power outage situation. Have your fire extinguishers on hand. You're working with candles, you're working with flames inside. You want to make sure that you can put those fires out. So make sure you got your fire extinguishers. Make sure you know how to use them, test it. Ken and I went through and got our CERT instructors licenses a couple months ago, and this is something that we teach with the fire extinguishers, excuse me. Remember the pass effect. You want to pull the pin, you want to hold the nozzle, aim low, squeeze, and then spray, sweep. So get these things, test yourself, make sure that they're ready to go. I know we used to have a fire extinguisher, and we looked in there, and it was totally empty. So check on these things. When you do your batteries twice a year, check your fire extinguishers. Make sure that they're going to work for you. Make sure you have the accessories that you're going to need. We've got all those wheat berries. Do you have something to grind them with? Another wonderful resource has been some of the cookbooks and whatnot. Make sure to have some of these online. On our website, we try to print out recipes or give people recipes to print out and use. Start working with this stuff. Practice. And I've got the Granny Pam Prepping with Big Flavors out here for sale. It's $20, and it's a wonderful resource. Something else Vicki Lynn works with is teaching people how to do batch cooking. And then something else is I've told people, start staging your food. If you have to get out of there, you want to be able to get your hands on stuff, and you want to know